Hey, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Wonderfully Made podcast. So, before I dive into today's conversation, I'm so excited because we have a very special co-host with me today. So, friends, meet my 14-year-old, almost 15-year-old niece, Addison, who also manages our social media for our ministry here at Wonderfully Made. Addison, welcome. And will you share a little bit about yourself and how you have been a part of Wonderfully Made growing up and what you're doing for us now?
Sure. Hi, my name is Addison. I live in East Tennessee. We relocated here about 2 years ago from Southern California. I love baking, swimming, basically anything that involves water. I've always been surrounded with the words wonderfully made, and only about a couple years ago were those words truly applied to my life. Because definitely as you get older, you struggle with image and feeling loved. And the verse, I praise you for I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, really the whole chapter of Psalms 139 helped me understand that I'm God's masterpiece. Those words are more than just words on a t-shirt or sticker. They're really special words. I'm now Wonderfully Made's social media manager, which means I create the posts and schedule them and all of that stuff. I first went to Anchored in Love conference about 3 years ago in seventh grade. I was super excited to finally be old enough to go with my mom, and it was such an amazing experience to be surrounded by all of these girls who were worshiping God and hearing all of those words at such a young age.
Well, it's so fun, Addison, having you be such a big part of our team here at Wonderfully Made. You're doing such an amazing job, and
Thank
it's been
you.
so special being your aunt and your sister August's aunt and seeing you guys grow up. And I'm just so proud of you. So we are very grateful for you, Addison. So today's conversation is called Worshiping Through Grief. And I want to ask you if you have ever experienced the sting of death when you lost someone you love. Losing friends and family members we love and care so deeply about is really an inescapable part of this life. It can be so earth-shattering, and really nothing can prepare us for the grief we will experience. Today's guest knows the pain of grief firsthand, but yet she has kept her hope in God and lives with great joy. Today, we are talking about enduring and, like I said, worshiping through grief. So, Addison, can you please introduce today's guest?
Today, we are going to be talking with one of my favorite singers, Ann Wilson, who was named Christian Breakout Artist of 2021 and who sung My Jesus top #1 on the Billboard charts. Ann has experienced immense grief in her young life and has had an unexpected path towards her music career, which she'll share about. With a mesmerizing voice and a hunger for Jesus, she relies on personal journal entries and time spent in nature for songwriting inspiration.
Let's dive into our conversation with Ann Wilson. Ann, welcome to Wonderfully Made. How are you today?
I'm good. It's so good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, Addison and I are so excited to have you. And you just finished your tour with Zach Williams. I saw that you had 62 shows in 99 days.
Yes.
So tell us what it's been like.
It's been probably the hardest season I've ever been a part of. Very busy schedules. We were gone 74 days out of 99 days. So like out of town, on the road. So it's been a really great season, though. A lot of incredible memories made. So much fun. It's just been so cool to be able to perform 62 shows and be able to watch, like, as over the last 4 months, as God has just moved through each night and impacted so many lives at these shows. I think as an artist, like, my favorite part is getting to perform live. So it's definitely been a really fun season, and I'm really grateful for all of it.
That's great. Well, I hope that you can kind of have a little bit of a season of rest too. I'm sure it's been a wild ride, but so I married into a family of singers, and Addison's dad actually sings Southern gospel. And it's a running joke in our family about how incredibly tone deaf I am. And it's pretty bad. You can vouch for me. I'm pretty bad. But when I first heard your song, My Jesus, like so many people, and I could not stop singing it. And of course, at the top of my lungs and completely tone deaf, but with no shame because it was pure worship. And I just think the song and your music and your story have touched just now millions of lives. So today we're talking about worshiping through grief. And you are no stranger to grief. Can you please share your story of loss and how it led you to where you are today?
Yeah. So almost 5 years ago, June of 2017, I lost my brother Jacob in a car accident. He was 23 years old. He was my best friend and was really everything to me. And losing him was so traumatic, so hard. Me and my family, I have an older sister, and then my parents. It was just so difficult. I remember there would be days where it would just feel like we couldn't even get through, and days where we just wanted to go to heaven and we just wanted to be done with this life. And there were so many moments where it felt like giving up was the easiest thing to do, but we chose in the beginning of losing Jacob to really just trust God. I remember having this moment like right after we found out that he had passed away, and I remember having this like realization that I had to choose, either am I going to grow closer to the Lord through this, or am I going to turn away from him and be angry with him and, all that kind of stuff. And so me and my family together as one chose to really just trust God and walk this whole, journey out with the Lord. And so I think from that first moment, it was like Jesus was all that we had and he's all that we went to. And so on the days that it would feel like we couldn't keep going, we would go to the Lord and turn to him. And he was so faithful to give us what we needed during that time. And that's really what led me into music, was just the whole process of losing Jacob. And then I remember there was a couple of days after the funeral when I was downstairs on my piano playing and just worshiping, and my mom overheard me, and I had never sang in front of anyone before, never was into music or anything like that. And I was just worshiping God. And she asked me if I would be willing to sing at the funeral for my brother. And so I decided to sing. And that was kind of what led us into music, was like the Lord called me to music on that stage when I was performing in front of everyone for my brother's funeral. And he used grief and loss and all the stuff with Jacob to really give me this career that I have now. So it's, grief is like one of the most important parts of my story. And it's one of the main things that I talk about. And I think it's why people resonate with my songs so much, is because every song is written out of the place of like what I've gone through with my brother and how the Lord has used that to just impact so many people.
Thank you for sharing. Addison,
what do you want to say to someone who's walking through grief and missing a loved one?
I would say grief is like the hardest thing, and it's the most unexpected thing. Like some days you'll wake up and you'll be so happy, and like you'll look back on the memories of your loved one and be so like joyful. And then sometimes you have this moment of like just pure heartbreak, and you just don't want to do anything that day, and you're just heartbroken. And I think that grief is like so hard to get through because it's so unexpected. But I would just encourage people that are walking through it to take one day at a time. I don't know, that's like, I feel like that's a piece of advice given out a lot, but for me in my own life, there's, especially with this season of just being super busy, is like, it's really hard to try and like manage all the outcomes. And I remember when I first lost my brother, I would always think about the future. Am I going to get through this? Am I going to make it through this year? Am I going to be able to, have a life without just being so brokenhearted all the time? And I think it's about taking one day at a time and trusting God, placing all of your, like everything in the Lord's hands, and realizing that God has a plan in everything that happens. And, And another thing is like the Lord will use everything for good, and you might not see it in your lifetime, but he does not waste tragedy and he doesn't waste a loss. And so I think I would just encourage you guys out there that are struggling with that to keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. He is the only one that can bring you comfort and true comfort. You can try and fill those parts of yourself with the world and things of the world, and that might last for a little bit, but you're going to realize eventually that the only thing that can fulfill you is Jesus and a life in him. So I would just encourage you to pursue him and keep your eyes fixed on him as you walk through grief, and have patience for yourself. Like, I think I would get frustrated a lot when I would have a really bad day. And, but I think just having patience for yourself, that we weren't designed to have to walk through grief. God didn't design the world to be the way that it is now. And so I think just having a lot of grace for yourself in that area.
Yeah. Well, Anne, we're so sorry for your loss. And your story makes me think of the verse in Corinthians chapter 1, verse 4, that says, God comforts us in our troubles so that we can comfort others with the comfort we ourselves have received from God. And I want to talk about your song, My Jesus. It reached the #1 spot on the Billboard charts, and you were named Breakout Christian Artist for 2021. And this song has well over 100 million streams. How have you seen this song impact people? And what do you think about it is resonating so deeply with so many?
Yeah. It's just so amazing to see how God's moved through this song. My Jesus was written out of the place of losing my brother. And I wanted to write this song of like a personal invitation of like, hey, you can have the same Jesus that I call mine, and you can have a relationship with him. And for me, when I became a Christian, what changed everything was the realization that I actually can know God intimately and I can have a personal relationship with him. So I would say that was kind of the heart behind the song. But then we related it to my own personal story with losing my brother. And I think that the testimonies have been so cool to see how people have just said, like, this song, you know, I lost a loved one, but when I heard this song, I like was healed of that. And I was able to, you know, get a relationship with the Lord again and all that kind of stuff. And so I think what people are resonating with is the fact that it's a real vulnerable song written out of a real place in my life. I think people can 100% tell when a song is not like, when an artist doesn't believe in a song. And so for me, I don't ever put out a song, nor will I ever put out a song that I don't fully believe in and I fully stand behind. So when we put out My Jesus, I was like, this is my song. This is my testimony, my journey. And so now being able to just see how that resonates with people, I think it's #1, like everyone walks through loss, especially the past couple of years. It's been so hard on the world, and everyone walks through loss in some type of way. And then also, I think it's just, like I said, it's a personal invitation song of inviting people to know and experience the Jesus that I have experienced. So I think there's a lot of different ways why people resonate with it, but I think those are definitely some of the top ones.
Well, it's such a powerful song. And I want to read some of the lyrics here, just in case any of our listeners haven't yet heard it. And I want to invite them to especially watch the music video of the song. And it shares about your story, and it's so powerful. And in the song, it says, his love is strong and his grace is free. And the good news is, I know that he can do for you what he's done for me. Let me tell you about my Jesus, and let my Jesus change your life. I think when your life has been radically or genuinely transformed by Christ, you can't help but want to tell others. And I think it's just such a worshipful song that inspires us to just, you know, want to share Christ with so many people, so their lives too can be transformed, and that they too can be comforted through whatever they're going through.
Absolutely.
So you share our mission at Wonderfully Made to see girls and women walk in their God-given value. Your song, Hey Girl, is an anthem of girls' worth. What is one lie you see young women and girls believe, and what do you want to say to them?
Oh, that's so good. I definitely love getting to speak into young women, and I'm still young myself. So I think like getting to speak into my generation, and then also, I mean, just women of all ages. But I feel like for me, in my specific just journey in my life and my friends and my groups of people, is like, I see the lie of so on so many girls of, number one, I would say, is the whole social media comparison game of, oh, comparing yourself to other girls and looking a certain way and following the ways of the world. But then also, I think I see so many girls to put their worth in a guy and what a guy says about them and thinks about them. And I think I've watched so many girls fall in those ways of like defining their worth in what a guy says about them, and then having him be kind of the one that takes them down this horrible journey and path. And I remember kind of being in that stage of like going through some of that, and like having all these mentors speak so much life into me. And I'm so grateful looking back that I had women to speak over me and to guide me in that area and to go, no, your identity is not in a guy, but it's in what the Lord says about you. And you're a daughter of the Most High King. And that's an honor that we get to be that. And I think for me, just to be able to be that for other girls is what my hope and desire is, to be able to lead girls closer to Jesus, to be able to remind them of their worth. It's not about what the world says about you. It's not about what the enemy says about you or speaks over you, but truly your identity is in Jesus, and that you're a child of him. And all the other things that I feel like, especially middle school and high schoolers are going through right now, those things are going to pass away, and you're going to realize like none of that mattered. And that was just a season of life. And for me, I felt like God was so just gracious to get me out of the path that I was going down, which would have been a path of destruction, and to pull me into a path of knowing my identity in him and just kind of clinging to that. So I think that's a really important question. And I think women, I encourage every woman out there to fix their eyes on Jesus and to have their identity be set in him.
Yeah, I definitely see a lot of my friends, and some of them are like older than me too. So they're all like wanting a boyfriend, and they feel like they'll be happy if they have a boyfriend or somebody. And I'm like, there's already so many people in your life that care about you, especially
Absolutely.
God.
Yeah.
So a boyfriend doesn't need to be the person that gives you that
Absolutely.
attention.
Yeah, absolutely. So true.
And if you could go back and give your younger self some words of wisdom, how old would she be and what would you tell her?
Oh, that's so sweet. I would say, I feel like there's two different stages. Number one is 12 years old. Right before I became a Christian, I remember just feeling like just kind of what we talked about, just the weight of identity and putting it in other people and insecurity and all the things that I went through. I would just say, you have no idea what God is going to do with your life. And I think if you would just be patient and sit back and let him lead you. I remember before I dedicated my life to Jesus, I was very I wanted to manage all the outcomes. I wanted to control everything. I wanted to be in control. And so one of the things that I would always try to do is plan my future. And so I think when I became a Christian, it was I realized okay, I got to just give all this to the Lord and let him lead my life. And so if I could go back, I would just tell her to, let the Lord lead your life and follow his ways. And also I remember just being in some really rough seasons and just kind of, I think I would need the reminder that there's going to be brighter days ahead and there's going to be beauty ahead. And then my second age would be when I lost my brother when I was 15. I would say to her that, God is going to use this in ways that you would never dream. And in 5 years from now, you're going to look back on this and see why this happened and what God is doing through this tragedy, and that he's not wasting it and that he's bringing beauty out of it.
And if you had a chance to speak to a young woman who is unsure what she believes about God, about faith, about religion, spirituality, what would you want to tell her about Jesus and about how he has changed your life?
Oh, I love that. I would say for me, I think being a woman is really hard. And there's so many layers to what we experience as women, so many things that we have to go through. And it's really hard, I think, especially with identity. I feel like that's one of the biggest struggles is, who am I? Do I believe in God? Do I believe in some higher being? Do I I think confidence is another thing that's really big, like not having confidence in who you are in Christ and who you are in the Lord. So I think for me, I would just encourage people in that stage of just like I don't think people understand their worth, especially women in the Lord, and how incredible it is that the God of the universe would send his son to die for each of us, so that we wouldn't have to carry the weight of our sins. We wouldn't have to live in this, this like sinful world, but that we could have eternity with Jesus. And then I think on top of that, just the love that the Lord has for each of you is so incredibly powerful and big. And the plans that he has for you are insane. And I think if we as women would, especially those questioning their faith, I think just taking a step back and realizing that, when this world passes away, what are you going to have left? Like, you're either going to heaven or you're going to hell. Like, there's two options there. And I think realizing that there's so much beauty found in Jesus. I feel like for me, I grew up in a Christian home where it was like all about like, not that my parents made it all about religion, but that's what it felt like for me. And until I met Jesus and realized like, oh my gosh, becoming a Christian is not just about going to church, but it's about actually walking day to day with the Lord. And there's so much beauty in that. And so I think women just realizing that like when you decide to give your life to Jesus and when you decide to follow him, there's going to be so much beauty on this journey. He's going to take you places that you never thought you would go. He's going to bless you abundantly. And then there's also freedom that comes with it, and freedom of realizing that you don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to come perfect. You can come as you are to the feet of Jesus. And that, at the end of the day, like, you are a child of God, and that's your identity. And so that's what I would say for all of those out there.
Yeah, it's so evident that just in the way that you speak and in your music and the way that you worship, that Christ has just genuinely transformed your life, and you're passionate about sharing that hope that you have with the world. And we want to thank you so much for speaking into the lives, especially of young women today, and for being just a role model for my amazing nieces and so many girls to look up to. And, we're here cheering you on. Thank you for the gift of your music. And Addison has one more question for you.
What's one of the best ways that we can support you and your music?
Oh, that's so sweet. I would say following me on social media, staying up to date with all of the events that we have coming up this year, shows and all that God's doing there. And then I think my brand new record, My Jesus, just came out. So I have a brand new record out, and you can find it anywhere where you stream music. And it's been out it's not even been out for that long, but it's already had such an impact on so many people. And you can find Hey Girl on the record. And there's a song called Mamas that's really sweet for women. So a lot of incredible songs on the record that you should definitely check out.
I second that. Thank you, Anne.
Absolutely.
Tennessee will come to your show.
Yes, I would love that. It would be so nice to meet you guys in person.
Yeah. Do you have any idea or thoughts about coming out to California? I know.
Oh, I would love that so much. We're coming out in the fall on my fall tour. I'm not sure exactly which cities yet, but I know we're going to be on the West Coast for probably 4 or 5 shows. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll hear. And if you want to learn how to surf or anything like that, let me know.
Oh, I love that so much. That would be so fun.
So, well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's so nice to meet you guys.
Yeah. Hope we can stay in touch with you. Thank you, Anne.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.